The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, my name is Jaclyne Croce, and I am a counseling psychologist at First Psychology, and I am facilitating the Sleep Well webinar this evening. So thank you for attending, and I hope that you find this evening's webinar useful, and I hope that it helps you with any sleep questions with regards to your sleep as much as we can. So firstly, before we get started, I'm just going to send out a quick poll just to get an idea of what your reasons are for being here today. Are you interested in sleep yourself? Are you having sleep problems yourself? Is it your partner or someone you know that's having sleep problems, or are you currently having sleep problems at the moment? Okay. All right, so the aims of the webinar today are to provide a better understanding of sleep, to understand causes and consequences of sleep deprivation, to provide an understanding of sleep hygiene, and to improve and ensure healthy sleep habits. So just from this slide, I'm sure that some people are thinking, having questions and trying to understand what things like sleep hygiene means and how to ensure healthy sleep, and we will cover all of that in the webinar this evening. So firstly, why is sleep essential? The study of sleep and all of its benefits is something that scientists are still trying to understand. That we don't quite know why sleep is so beneficial. We're not quite sure why, as humans, we need to sleep as much as we do. We technically are spending almost a third of our life asleep. So as scientists study sleep, they know for certain that it's a very beneficial and essential part of our well-being, but we can't quite figure out why that is. So while we do not fully know why sleep is beneficial, anytime any one of us, I think everyone can relate to the fact that whenever we don't have a good night's sleep, that we know how awful we're going to feel the next day. That lying in bed at night can provoke a lot of anxiety because we know that the next day we are going to feel the really negative repercussions of not having a good night's sleep the previous evening. So we do know, just as every individual knows, we know that sleep is beneficial and how important it is for us to feel good in our day-to-day lives. So regardless of the importance of sleep, most people actually are not getting enough sleep, regardless of the fact that we do spend a big chunk of our lives sleeping, that we know that it's very beneficial for us. Most people are actually not getting enough sleep. And when we think about this, even though it is a necessity, even though it is very beneficial, very healthy for us to sleep a lot, our society actually really discourages getting a healthy amount of sleep and discourages having a healthy sleep life. When you think about our work lives, or as students, our uni lives, even our social lives, they really discourage the importance of sleep, that so many people are overworking within their jobs, or as students, it's encouraged during exam period to pull all-nighters or to study late into the night. And even with our social lives, that so many times if we want to go home, our friends discourage us to go home and get a good night's sleep. So our society really does not encourage the importance of sleep and doesn't really emphasize sleep as a necessity. It really treats sleep as more of a luxury, and that's really just not the case, that sleep really is a necessity. And we want to try to change this mentality of sleep not being a luxury, but in fact being a necessity. So just before we move on, I'm going to give another poll. So if you personally struggle to sleep, which of the following do you experience? Do you experience problems getting to sleep, Do you experience problems waking up throughout the night, or do you experience waking up early in the morning and not being able to get back to sleep? Okay. So, however, without adequate sleep, one suffers both short-term and long-term consequences. So we know that if we don't sleep enough, that experiencing lack of sleep, there are short-term consequences and there's also long-term, very detrimental consequences. So we're going to look into this just now. So the short-term consequences of poor sleep. In the short term, lack of sleep can affect judgment. It can affect how we make our decisions. We might make more clear, more different decisions if we've had a good night's sleep. When we haven't slept well, we might not make decisions as carefully or as thoughtfully. It can really affect our mood. We all know what it's like to not have a good night's sleep and the next day feel really irritable, feel really even overwhelmed, feel really anxious, depressed. That having short-term lack of sleep can really affect a person's mood. It can affect one's ability to learn and one's ability to retain information, which is really interesting what was just said about society's push to discourage sleep and that we should work harder, and as students we should study more. That by not sleeping, it really affects our ability to learn and also to retain information. So it really kind of contradicts that philosophy of we should work hard and be better, because actually if we slept more, then we would already perform better in our work lives or our school lives. It can also increase risk of serious accident or injury. So there's actually been a lot of research that shows that people who are driving without a good night's sleep are at significantly more risk of a serious accident or injury. So there's a lot of short-term consequences that accompany lack of sleep. Some of the long-term consequences, which is considered to be more along the lines of chronic sleep deprivation. So an actual sleep disorder where a person has gone for weeks without healthy sleep, without significant or sufficient sleep, can result in really serious health issues. And some of these health issues are obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, mood disorders, depression and anxiety, substance abuse issues. People who have chronic sleep deprivation are more associated with alcohol abuse, and even early mortality. So the long-term effects of chronic sleep deprivation are really, really detrimental, that these are very serious health issues. So we know that it's really, really unhealthy to have chronic sleep deprivation. So what is unhealthy sleeping? So I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, how do I know if I'm not sleeping sufficiently? So we now want to talk about what healthy sleeping is, what's a sufficient amount of sleep. Most of us have experienced difficulty falling to sleep. We know what that's like. And this is often due to stress and can typically resolve itself once the stress has passed. So we know what it's like as a university student during exam period, sometimes feeling anxious about your studies, having a hard time getting to sleep, or a high pressure job with a lot of stress within your work life or your family life, that we can all experience stress, and this can affect our sleep. And once the stress resolves itself, quite often our sleep issues can resolve themselves as well. But sleep becomes a problem if on a regular occurrence it's affecting your daily life, then you could be suffering from an actual sleep disorder. So we want to be able to determine the difference between some more minor sleep issues and a chronic sleep disorder. So since many people experience sleep problems, it is very difficult to determine the two. So just before we do that, I'm going to send out another poll just to continue to get to know a little bit about why you're here. So on average, how much do you sleep? How much do you feel you sleep each night? Okay. Okay, so to understand sleep disorders, it's very important to determine the severity of your sleep problems by scrutinizing your symptoms. So it's really important to start to pay attention if you want to determine whether or not you have some minor sleep issues or some more major chronic sleep disorders. It's really important to start paying attention to your symptoms surrounding your issues with sleep. So whether it's not falling asleep, taking a really long time to fall asleep, or waking up in the middle of the night, or waking up early in the morning and not getting back to sleep, waking up throughout the night intermittently. So really start to get to know your sleep patterns and even start to pay attention to your day-to-day life. Notice your caffeine consumption, notice your daily routine, and I'll mention how we can really find ways to organize and understand your symptoms. And in doing so, you'll be able to notice distinct signs of sleep deprivation. So by understanding different symptoms, you'll be able to tell whether or not you're experiencing sleep deprivation. And what you want to look out for if you suspect you might be sleep deprived is that on a regular basis, so I'm not talking that you had a poor sleep last night, but regularly for weeks on end, you experience the following symptoms. So feeling really sleepy or irritable during the day, and not just kind of hitting a midday slump after lunch and feeling kind of tired at your desk at work, but just that on a regular basis, regardless of the time of day, regardless of how your sleep was the night before, that you are sleepy and it's affecting your mood all the time, that you could fall asleep at this very moment. That you have difficulty staying awake when you're sitting still. So if you sit down to watch TV or you sit down to read a book, that you instantly start to fall asleep and have a really difficult time staying awake. Also, on a regular basis, if you experience struggling to stay awake while driving, that if you regularly, every time you get into your car to drive somewhere, that you experience the need to fall asleep. This could be an indication of a proper sleep disorder. If you're having difficulty concentrating on your day-to-day tasks, on your job, on your studies, even concentrating just in simple conversation, that if this happens to you on a regular basis, you notice your mind, you can't focus on the task at hand, then this could be an indication of some more chronic sleep disorders. If you're often told by others that you look tired, that others are actually noticing that there's something not quite right. If you're having delayed reactions, that you're not responding to your name when someone calls you, or you notice your reaction time physically is delayed. Also, if you have difficulty controlling your emotions, so you notice that your emotions are kind of all over the map, that you are really at one moment you're quite happy, the next moment you could be quite tearful or frustrated or overwhelmed. All of these are indications, if you experience this on a regular basis, that you could be chronically sleep deprived. If you feel the need to nap every day, again, that I don't mean that we hit our 2 o'clock slump and we kind of feel a bit tired, a bit restless, it's been a long day, or we're getting a bit sick of sitting at our desk at the office, but that more so that you need to have a nap every day, that you need to have that sleep. Also, if you require caffeine to get through the day, and that's not just, waking up in the morning and having your cup of coffee or having a midday cup of coffee for a little energy boost, but that you are actually dependent on caffeine to give you that jolt of energy to get through your day. All right, so we're going to look more so at some sleep disorders. There's a whole array of sleep disorders, but I'm really only just for this webinar going to focus on insomnia because that's really the main mental health issue when it comes to disordered sleeping. And later in the webinar, I'll talk about other sleep disorders and what you can do if you suspect that you might be suffering from one of those. But for now, we'll just focus on insomnia because it's most closely related to mental health issues. So insomnia is the most common sleep disorder, and it's an inability to sleep sufficiently and to feel rested and refreshed. So you're never able to fall asleep and sleep as though you feel you've had a good amount of sleep. It takes a really long time to get to sleep, or you're not sleeping at all. And when you do sleep, you're still not feeling rested and you're still not feeling refreshed. Insomnia is often a symptom of another issue, such as anxiety or depression. So insomnia is typically comorbid with another mental health issue. It rarely does a person have insomnia without having other stuff going on in their life, whether it's really low mood, chronic depression, or quite anxious, and therefore they're not able to get to sleep. The good thing about this is that insomnia can be cured by lifestyle changes, and we will discuss this as we continue in our webinar. So lifestyle changes can actually be really important to focus on when it comes to sleep disorders. So we're going to now start to talk about different ways to improve your sleep. So we've talked about the detriments of lack of sleep. We've talked about specific sleep disorders, trying to determine whether or not you think you might have a sleep disorder, what are the symptoms of sleep deprivation. So now I'm sure what all of you are hoping to achieve in this is to find ways to improve your sleep. So just before we move on to this bit of the webinar, just going to send out another poll. So which of the following have you tried with the specific aim of improving your sleep? All right. So now we're going to start to talk about ways to improve your sleep. So one way, as I mentioned previously, is to really get to know your symptoms that are associated with problematic sleeping. So one way to do so is to keep a sleep diary. So a sleep diary is basically a journal about your day-to-day life and also your sleeping life, that when noting down when you're not sleeping or noting down when you're waking up, or just becoming very aware of your overall lifestyle and making a note of that in a journal. And we'll talk a bit more about the actual details of the sleep diary. But what this can do is it can help you determine if you are suffering from a sleep disorder, or even just to determine issues with sleep. So it can be really helpful to distinguish between the two, if it's just a minor issue or a more chronic issue. It will help to pinpoint daytime and nighttime habits that might be contributing to your sleep problems. So again, like I said, you're talking about you're recording not only your evening and your nighttime habits and when your sleep habits, but you're also recording your daytime habits. So really getting to know being aware of your lifestyle and trying to see if there's any unhelpful things you're doing that could be affecting your sleep. A sleep diary can also be very helpful if eventually you do decide to see a doctor about your sleep issues. And I'll talk about that later in the webinar, at what point you should potentially seek medical professional help. But once you do, if you've been recording a sleep diary for a few weeks, then you can have that to present to your GP or a sleep specialist to let them know what's going on for you. They have something concrete to work with, and it can really help you through that process, which can be a really, really difficult process. But if you have that sleep diary with you, it can be very helpful. So what should you include in your sleep diary? So getting a little journal and keeping this with you, keeping it on your bedside table so you have easy access to it all the time. You want to record the time you go to bed and the time you woke up. You want to record your total hours of sleep, and you want to also record your perceived quality of sleep. So knowing when you went to bed, when you woke up, what that total amount of time was, and then also, really importantly, how you feel you slept. So slept really, really deeply and felt really, really groggy when the alarm went off, or slept really lightly to the point that I'm not really even sure if I slept at all last night, that I know I slept, but it doesn't feel like I slept, or slept really horribly. I was up every half an hour. I couldn't stop looking at the clock. So really noting down your perceived quality of your sleep. Also noting down a record of the time you spent awake when you were trying to sleep and what you did. So at what point were you awake in the night and how frequently did that happen? So every single interval that you were awake, you want to record. And then you also want to record what you did when you were trying to sleep or when you were not sleeping. So was it that you got on your laptop or went on your iPad and watched a show, or just kind of looked on your phone and went through emails? Did you get up and go to the bathroom? Did you get up and grab a glass of water? Just recording really what you did during this time. Also recording types and amounts of foods, liquids, caffeine, alcohol consumed, and the times of consumption. So really understanding your diet, because some foods can be really stimulating, and also the times of food, the times that you're eating. So trying not to eat too late before you go to bed, recording what times you're eating, recording what time you last ate right before you went to bed, and noticing if that can affect how you sleep. Also the amount of liquid, that drinking a lot of water right before bed can be really stimulating, and that requires you to get up to go to the bathroom. That's quite disturbing. Noting your your caffeine consumption. Trying not to, everyone's different, but some people it's encouraged to not even drink caffeine after the middle of the day, after 12 noon. So really noticing how caffeine affects you and really cutting back on your amount of caffeine. And also noticing alcohol and times of consumption for alcohol, that actually, while alcohol is a depressant, it's really disruptive for our sleep. And that's something a lot of people don't know. They just assume because alcohol is a depressant and can make you quite sleepy, that alcohol can actually be quite stimulating once it's starting to wear off in the middle of the night. Also noting your feelings or your moods before bed. A lot of people who have problems with sleeping will feel really anxious before they go to bed, really worrying, what if I don't sleep well tonight? What if I have another night without sleeping? So really noticing what those thoughts will do to you, that starting to have these really anxious thought patterns right before you get into bed can be really unhelpful and really anxiety provoking. And then that's not a very restful state that you're now in when you're trying to get some sleep. So becoming very aware of how your moods are, what your anxiety is doing, what your emotions are doing before you get into bed. Also noting down any drugs or medication that you consume throughout the day, whether it's a regular medication that you're always on, or if it's just something that you took that day because you were unwell. But really becoming very aware and keeping note of different medications you might have taken and the time of consumption and the actual amount that you consumed. All right. So these details recorded in your sleep diary can be very helpful in revealing specific behaviors that might be hurting your chances of having a good night's sleep. So by noting down these details, it can be really helpful to determine if you're doing anything that can be really unhelpful for you trying to achieve a good night's sleep. As I previously mentioned, a lot of issues involving insomnia can be sorted out with lifestyle changes. So something like the sleep diary can really help yourself or help your GP or any other healthcare professional that's trying to help you deal with your sleep, can really help you pinpoint what you might be doing that might hurt your chances of having a really good sleep. All right, I'm going to throw out another poll here. Do you feel your sleep is negatively impacting your life? Uh-oh. Sorry, just jumped back to the beginning of my presentation, so I'm just gonna. All right. Okay. So once you've recorded in your sleep diary, you can use this as a means to improve your overall sleep habits and develop better sleep hygiene. So at this point, we're going to move on to sleep hygiene. So I'm sure a lot of you are thinking to yourself, what is sleep hygiene? Or maybe you've already done quite a bit of research yourself on ways to improve your sleep. And I'm sure if you have, then you've come across the concept of sleep hygiene. But we're going to discuss how you can better your sleep hygiene. So firstly, what is sleep hygiene? So sleep hygiene is a variety of different practices or routines that are necessary to have quality sleep throughout the night that maximizes daytime energy and alertness. So basically, sleep hygiene is a whole bunch of different things that you can do really with regards to your sleep, whether it's daytime activities, whether it's things you do just before you go to bed, whether it's things you do to change your environment that you're sleeping in. So sleep hygiene is a lot of different things you can do that can be really helpful for you to ensure a good quality of sleep so that during the day you're feeling alert and energized and that you've had a great sleep. And by keeping the sleep diary, it can help indicate if you're doing anything that's detrimental to your sleep hygiene. So, how can we improve sleep hygiene? So to have healthy sleep hygiene, what should you do? Firstly, you want to maintain a regular wake and sleep pattern. So a lot of the times, a big mistake that people make is that they'll have their weekly routine, their Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 job. So, you're waking up at the same time every day, which is great because it keeps you in this routine. And then you're going to bed the same time every night and you're getting a good amount of sleep. But then on the weekends come, and like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we want to have fun. Our social lives get in the way. We want to go out and see our friends, and our society is really discouraging of really healthy sleep. So trying to maintain this consistent pattern and not changing your patterns from weekdays to weekends. So ensuring that you have this consistent pattern of waking and sleeping and that it's the same from your weekday to your weekends. You want to spend an appropriate amount of time in bed. So really, if every person needs a different amount of sleep. That the average adult is recommended between about 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and every person will be different. Some people might need a little bit more, some people might need less, but every person requires a different amount of sleep. So if for yourself, you know that you feel really good after you've had a great 8 hours of sleep, then try not to spend much more time in your bed than that actual time that you're sleeping. So really not trying to use your bed for anything else other than sleeping. a lot of the times we'll wake up in the morning and we'll lie in bed and read the paper, or even reading a book in bed at night is good, but trying not to spend too much time in your bed. So to have healthy sleep hygiene, you should use your bedroom for its intended purpose. So trying not to even have a desk in your bedroom, that can really, you can start to associate your bedroom environment with a work environment, and that's a very conflicting way for you to associate the room that you need to be sleeping in. So trying to separate your work environment from your sleep environment, and especially, I know a lot of people, myself included, when I was a student, I would do a lot of work, a lot of essay writing in my bed, just sitting with my laptop on my lap, and that's really tricky for the mind to associate that environment with sleep when you're sitting on your bed all the time writing essays, or if you're writing emails from your phone or from your iPad or your laptop. That technology, we can kind of take it wherever we want it to be now. It's not these big desktop computers that have to stay downstairs in the office. That now we bring our technology, we bring our work with us everywhere we go, and that includes our bed. So trying not to get sucked into responding to emails right before you go to bed, or getting up in the morning and opening your phone and seeing that you have some emails and just responding to them right there and then before you get up. That is really difficult for your mind to distinguish that work environment and that sleep environment. So really keeping them very separate. Another thing you should do to improve your sleep hygiene is to avoid napping. That's quite similar to having this consistent wake-sleep pattern, that you don't want to, every now and then throw a nap in there, because that really breaks up that wake-sleep pattern that is necessary to have healthy sleep hygiene. So avoiding stimulants such as caffeine, nicotine, or alcohol too close to bedtime. So caffeine, some people are really even discouraged to have caffeine after 12 o'clock in the day. That caffeine can really affect our sleep that severely. Nicotine is also a stimulant. It is known to raise heart rate, blood pressure, raise anxiety. That trying not to smoke too closely before bed can be helpful to really get yourself into this healthy nighttime routine where you're feeling you're feeling tired and needing to get some rest. And also alcohol. That initially alcohol will make us feel a bit sleepy, but as we go into our sleep cycle, research shows that it is actually quite stimulating once we have alcohol in our system and we're trying to sleep with it. So other ways that you should also, to ensure that you have healthy sleep hygiene, is to exercise regularly. I noticed on the poll question that it seemed that a lot of you have tried to use exercise as a form of trying to tire yourself out, really. That this is a way that a lot of people will use to encourage healthy sleep or encourage sleep at all. That having a regular exercise routine can be very helpful. It just burns off that extra energy. It's known to help you sleep better at night. It increases the quality of your sleep. It helps you to fall asleep better and quicker. So having that regular exercise routine, it doesn't mean that you have to constantly be training for a marathon, but just, the regular recommended amount that of half an hour, 5 times a week is considered helpful. So trying to consider where you can fit in more exercise, even if it's just a walk to work instead of driving the car, or I'll start cycling different places, just trying to increase that exercise. Large meals can be very disruptive right before you go to sleep. That this kickstarts the metabolism, gets that metabolism going again, and this can be quite stimulating. So trying to avoid eating really heavy meals if you're going to be going to bed in the next few hours. Even trying to avoid dinner being the heaviest meal of your day. That this can be really difficult, really stimulating. So if it means that, breakfast and lunch, you eat a bit more, and then dinner time, you won't be as hungry, and having a more lighter meal at dinner, then this can be really helpful to encourage healthy sleep. Ensure adequate exposure to natural light to promote a healthy sleep-wake cycle. So during the day that you're getting enough time outside. And this is really helpful for more elderly populations, that having that exposure outside, that kind of old saying, you know, like just go outside, get fresh air, tire yourself out. That we all know what it's like when we spent a whole day outside, and that fresh air really can just knock you out. That at the end of the day, you're just feeling that much more tired. And it's actually involving this natural light cycle, that trying to encourage yourself to be exposed to natural light during the day, getting outside as much as you can. And then once the sun drops and it's dusk, trying to dim all lights, and that you want your environment to mimic this cycle. Try to make your sleep environment as pleasant and relaxing as possible. So again, like I mentioned, trying not to have an office in your bedroom, trying to separate those two environments. So you associate your bedroom with sleep time and the rest of your home with everything else that you do. So making that environment in your bedroom as relaxing and comforting and enjoyable as you can. So whether for you that's putting out some candles that encourage different scents like lavender that are known to encourage healthy sleep, or whether it's just making sure you have really dim lights on in your bedroom before you go to bed, that not using your overhead light for when you're getting ready for bed, just having a light bedside table lamp ready for you to use, so you're not stimulating yourself in that environment right before you're trying to go to sleep. So why is all of this important? So sleep hygiene is helpful for those suffering from sleep disorders to improve their quality of sleep. It's really important and can also be helpful for anyone regardless of their sleep, as it promotes healthy sleep and daytime alertness. That all of those habits that we just discussed it's not necessarily just for someone who suspects they have sleep deprivation, or that they might be suffering from insomnia or another sleep disorder. That sleep hygiene is important for anybody, that it's really important that we develop these really healthy sleep routines, because this helps us to feel rested, to feel energized and alert during the day. And we all know that when we do feel that way, we just enjoy our lives that much more. We enjoy our jobs that much more. It just improves our overall quality of life. Practice healthy sleep hygiene as a means of preventing sleep issues and the development of sleep disorders. So if you already have a great sleep hygiene routine, then the chances of you developing a sleep disorder or sleep deprivation is much more diminished. That you have these great routines embedded in your lifestyle. You know what's helpful for you. You know what isn't helpful for you, and that helps to deter the onset of any sleep disorders. I'm going to quickly throw out another poll. All right, this is our last poll question for tonight. So with regards to the previous question, do you feel sleep is negatively impacting your life? If you said yes to this question, in which areas of your life is sleep having a negative impact? All right. So, in all this discussion that we've done about sleep hygiene, how do you know if you need to improve your sleep hygiene? That what was just mentioned about anyone can benefit from proper sleep hygiene. So how even if you're not sure if you're suffering from a sleep disorder, or even if you're not sure if you need to change your sleep habits, how do we know if we do need to better our sleep hygiene? So the strongest indicators of poor sleep hygiene are sleep disturbances. So you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't get back to sleep, or you wake up every couple hours, or like many of you mentioned in the polls, waking up early in the morning and not getting back to sleep. That's a very strong indicator that you don't have healthy sleep hygiene. Another strong indicator is daytime sleepiness. That, like I mentioned before, it's quite normal to hit kind of an afternoon slump. It's been a long day, you've been up early, you've been working at your desk for a while, your blood sugar is getting a bit low, that's quite normal. Sometimes you just need to get up and move around, get your blood flowing. But if you're really sleepy during the day, then that's an indicator that your sleep hygiene is suffering. So how do you know what the best sleep hygiene is for you? So as I mentioned, everyone requires a different amount of sleep. Everyone requires different sleep hygiene programs. That it's really important for you to start to get to know yourself, noticing days when you're feeling rested, and reflect on the previous day, reflect on the previous night, and consider what you did. And perhaps those were all really good ways of dealing with your day and evening routines, and that's why you're feeling so rested that day. So trying to understand what sleep hygiene routines is best for you. So if you're needing to improve your sleep hygiene, it would be because if you're taking too long to fall asleep at night, if you're awakening during the night. So reasons why you need to change your sleep hygiene. So we spoke about reasons why you need to improve your sleep hygiene, but also if you are trying to improve your sleep hygiene and it's not just quite working, you would be able to know if you're taking too long to fall asleep or if you're awakening during the night. So these are reasons why maybe you need to tweak your sleep hygiene plan a little bit differently. So if this is the case, you should reconsider your lifestyle and your bedtime habits. So recording in your sleep diary, looking at your daily routines, looking at your food intake, your caffeine intake, if you had a nap that day, and even considering your bedtime habits, what your room is like, what you did before you went to bed. And if you're noticing that you're taking too long to fall asleep, or you're waking up in the night, then you need to reconsider your lifestyle and your bedtime habits. So we mentioned that stress can be really a really big impact, can have a really big impact on our sleep, that a lot of the time insomnia is comorbid with anxiety. So we're going to talk a little bit about stress and sleep. So a common cause of issues with sleep and sleep disorders, such as insomnia, is due to stress. So we can all relate to having a stressful period at work, or having a stressful exam the next day and feeling really anxious, or waking up in the middle of the night and worrying about what we need to do, or worrying about all the things we have to get done. So what can be helpful is to use your sleep diary to note down your moods throughout the day or causes of disturbance in your sleep. So if you're thinking about stressors from the previous day, that can be a sign that your anxiety is impacting your sleep. If you notice that you are not sleeping due to uncontrollable worry, trying to learn to manage your thoughts. So that's a really difficult concept, and it is a really challenging thing to do, but trying to manage your thoughts, manage your anxiety, can be really helpful to manage your stress, to feel less anxious and less worried throughout your life in general, and will help you sleep better. So for an example, evaluate your worries to see if they are irrational and replace them with more productive thoughts. So something like, I will never get done what I have to get done tomorrow. Well, okay, let's look at that. Perhaps what you have to do at work tomorrow is a lot, but what can you do to manage the work better? Do you need to speak to your colleagues? Do you need to speak to your boss? Are you being irrational? Are you just worrying that you won't get it done when in fact it's a lot of work, but you can get it done? So try to evaluate your worries. Try to rationalize them. A lot of the time our worries are very irrational, unhelpful, very anxiety provoking. So trying to rationalize these unproductive thoughts with more rational, productive thoughts. Also, before going to bed, write down your tasks for the following day so you're not ruminating over them in bed. If you have a list of things to do the next day, write them down before you go to bed, and that way you're not holding that list in your head and worrying, what if I don't remember this? What if I forget about this? This way you've written it down, it's out of your mind, and you don't have to hold on to that and try to remember that and then also try to sleep. So that's really unhelpful. Other means of handling your stress. Notice negative, unhelpful thoughts and develop a more positive outlook. Thinking, as I just mentioned, I can't get all this work done. Why can't you get all this work done? Is it just a lot of work that you're feeling overwhelmed about? What suggests that you won't get your work done? Evaluate your life and see if you can manage your time differently. So see if there's ways that you can manage things differently. If you need to speak to colleagues, or if you need to speak to your partner, if you feel that you're doing too much around the house, then you don't have to be alone in all of this. Communication can be really helpful, and that can help you to manage your time differently. Exercise, as we mentioned, burning off that anxiety, burning off that stress. It's great when you've had a really, really tough day, or you've had a lot of work to do, and then you're able to go home and go for a run after work, or go to the gym and release some of that stress and tension and just feel good about yourself. Talk to someone. Talk to a friend, talk to a family member, or even a mental health professional. That carrying all this stress, and if you're going over thoughts in your head and worries in your head when you should be sleeping, that's a very strong indicator that you need to talk to someone. So find someone that you trust, or if you need to speak to your GP or a mental health professional, that's okay, that you shouldn't have to be lying awake at night holding all these worries in on your own. So how do we reduce stress to improve sleep? Mindfulness is a really helpful technique that is developing great momentum as a psychological intervention in the field of adult and just mental health in general, and really in healthcare in general. Basically, mindfulness is known to decrease symptoms of depression, anxiety, along with many other psychological issues, and its research is showing it improves overall well-being. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is a particular way of paying attention on purpose. So when we notice our thoughts have drifted away and we've zoned out for the past couple minutes, mindfulness will help us to notice that and help us to bring us back to the present moment. It develops an awareness of the present moment. In being aware, it asks that you accept each moment, good or bad, as it is, and accepting them in a non-judgmental manner. So if you're lying in bed at night and your mind is at the office tomorrow, that you're in your bed, but mentally you're thinking about all the things you need to do when you get to work tomorrow, mindfulness can be really helpful for you to notice that that's where your mind has gone, and that's not helpful to encourage you to get to sleep. So mindfulness asks you to gently bring your mind back to the present moment and become very focused, very aware of where you are right now. Just what does it feel like to lie in this bed? What does it feel like in my sheets? What does it, even putting a hand on your stomach, and what does it feel like as I inhale and exhale? Mindfulness asks us to just be aware in this present moment. And in doing so, it helps us to separate ourselves from our experience and be less affected by it. If we pull ourselves away from the anxiety of what we need to do at work tomorrow and just try and be present in this moment while we're lying here in our beds, then we don't get as caught up in our anxious thoughts. It helps us to separate from them. Research is now showing mindful meditation can improve one's sleep. It encourages you to come away from the thoughts that are keeping you up at night and calm your mind and focus your breathing. So it helps you to just come away, recognize the unhelpful thoughts, recognize what's disturbing you or what's interrupting you from having a good night's sleep. And It helps you to just focus on your breathing, become calm from your anxious thoughts, and helps you to just fall asleep more easily. So also relaxation techniques. Relaxation is beneficial for anyone, but especially those who are struggling with sleep. So mindfulness can be considered a relaxation technique. It's slightly different from relaxation because mindfulness actually asks you to pay attention, whereas relaxation just kind of asks you to notice your breathing and just kind of drift off and drift away to sleep. So various techniques, again, finding which works for you. So everyone will find different techniques helpful. So try a few out and decide what relaxation exercise works best for you. And I'll give you a few tips on what you could try. So before commencing your relaxation exercise, ensure you are completely ready for bed. So get ready for bed. You've brushed your teeth, you're in bed, you're ready for your night's sleep. Your lights are out or they're dimmed very low on the lamp on the bedside table. Block out any loud disturbances. Get into bed so you're completely ready for a good night's sleep. So deep breathing is a really helpful relaxation exercise. Lying comfortably on your back, place one hand on your belly and begin to focus on your breathing. Slowly inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your mouth and just staying focused on your breathing. And if you notice your mind has drifted away, gently bring it back to your breathing. So this is very similar to mindfulness, that just noticing where your thoughts have gone and noticing that that's not helping you to get to sleep. Progressive muscle relaxation is also a relaxation technique that can be very helpful to encourage sleep. So lying comfortably in your bed, start by focusing on your toes, gently tensing the muscles in your toes. So clenching your toes and then flexing your toes. And this kind of seems a bit unexpected because you're kind of tensing your muscles. So you would think that would maybe be a bit stimulating, but it actually helps you to release the tension. It helps you to become aware of where the tension is in your body and helps you to release that as you tense and release your muscles. Start to work slowly up your body, gradually tensing and relaxing each muscle until you reach all the way up to the top of your head. And notice how it feels having released all the tension in your body. Also, visualization techniques can be very helpful. So visualizing a calm, peaceful, resting place. Lying comfortably in your bed, focusing on your breathing, and visualize you're in a very calm, peaceful, relaxing environment. So whether that's an environment that you've been to or that you know of, or just one that you envisage being very relaxing. So have that image in your mind and concentrate on how relaxed being in this place makes you feel. And just focus on that place, focus on your breathing as you drift off to sleep. Also listening to a guided exercise. That sometimes having these visualizations or just focusing on your breathing or tensing your muscles, if we have a lot of thoughts in our head, we can become very distracted very easily. So sometimes actually needing to do a guided exercise can be helpful. So if you find your mind wandering during these independent exercises, it can be helpful to do a guided relaxation or even a guided mindfulness exercise. So what I recommend my clients in my psychology practice to do, and even if I sometimes am not sleeping very well, I have a few exercises that I found just by going on Google or going on YouTube, and they're specific to for guided sleep relaxation exercises. And what I encourage is, so you're not on your laptop late at night because the screen can be really it can really encourage stimulation, and that can be really detrimental for sleep, is have one that you've picked out earlier in the day and then download it onto your MP3 player or your phone. And then that way, if you're not sleeping, you can just plug in to the guided exercise and just put your headphones in and just listen to the exercise, which can maybe also be a body scan, like the muscle tension exercise, or just a visualization as well. But having that guided voice can sometimes be very helpful. If you've tried all of these provided suggestions and your sleep is still not improving, then as I mentioned previously, there are other sleep disorders that we didn't speak about in this webinar because they're not as related to mental health issues. They're more related to actual physical issues. Then I would encourage you to seek professional help, that you should go to your GP, bring your sleep diary, and speak to your GP about what you're experiencing. Because there are some other chronic sleep disorders that you could be experiencing. If you've tried all of these things and you're still not feeling any better, then you just want to rule out anything else. So if you're trying all this and your sleep still doesn't improve, then definitely speak to your GP. So you should visit your GP if you continue to have persistent daytime sleepiness or fatigue, loud snoring accompanied by pauses in your breathing. This can be an indicator of sleep apnea, which is when you stop breathing in your sleep, which obviously can be very dangerous. If you have difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, feeling unrefreshed after you sleep, frequent morning headaches, crawling sensations in your legs and arms at night, that this can be restless leg syndrome, which is a different sleep disorder, inability to move while you're falling asleep or waking up, physically acting out dreams during your sleep, or falling asleep at inappropriate times. So all of these, if you've tried everything else and all of these are happening, then you need to seek professional help. That things like sleep hygiene, and if you've tried that and it's still not working and these symptoms are happening, then you definitely need to see your GP. So in summary, we're coming to the end of our webinar tonight. So I hope you found the things that I've spoken about tonight helpful, and I hope that they help you to improve your sleep. But in summary, sleep is a necessity, not a luxury. So we need to start taking sleep seriously. It's so beneficial. It's so crucial to our overall well-being. So we need to start considering that sleep is a necessity. Record a sleep diary to determine causes for your sleep issues. Develop healthy sleep hygiene. Find out what habits are helpful for you and what aren't, and start applying them to your daily routine. Learn ways that are helpful for you to manage your stress, whether it's trying to rationalize your unhelpful thoughts, getting to know your thoughts that are keeping you up at night, or speaking to a friend or a family member or a mental health professional. Use relaxation techniques to help encourage your sleep or aid your sleep if you're not seeking, and seek professional help if your symptoms are still persisting. So I have at the end here some helpful links that were referenced throughout the presentation, and just some things that you can look at yourself to do some more reading, some more research, and hopefully help improve your sleep. So that's all for our webinar this evening, and I hope that you found it helpful, and I hope that if you're personally suffering with sleep, or if you know someone suffering from sleep issues, then I hope that you found this helpful. So thank you so much for attending, and have a good night.